Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, pause this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. In the context of this podcast, everybody refers to us and our cat. You are free to feel however you want about Rand, who is a fictional character. Don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
This is weird.
I know, we're recording on a Friday. It's because I was having a full-blown meltdown yesterday. I'm on the edge of another full-blown meltdown because I'm on day 5 of this headache. It just won't go away. So
last night we needed some self-care, so this is not a joke, ordered Cheesecake Factory and watched Sex and the City 2, the movie.
It was a great night.
Which is fully, I can't emphasize this enough. We finished Sex and the City. I look up how long is the Sex and the City movie, because it's 7 p.m. What else are we gonna do for 2 hours? And it's 2.5 hours. They're both 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They're fucking Marvel length feature films, and they're about nothing.
I know, it's so funny. This is only my second time seeing the movies. I've seen the show through probably 3 times, but I didn't watch the movies my second watch through because I was like, I have no need of this. Yeah. So I was rewatching them and I'm like, these are legitimately about nothing. There is more plot in one 22-minute episode of Sex and the City than there is in this 2.5 hour long movie. They are simply about nothing. And I would say that they were just fan service, but they're not enjoyable to watch either. They, do whack things with the characters, and just, they are so weird.
I've been trying to understand the type of person who would have, earnestly watched and enjoyed Sex and the City in its heyday.
Mm-hmm.
And, did they show up in droves at the movie theaters? This is what we want, desperately? And all I can really imagine is the women in Sex and the City themselves wanting to watch this movie because they're all such narcissists.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I have talked about my love for Sex and the City on this podcast. I'm sure I have.
Just sort of obliquely referenced it.
But Sex and the City is a bad television show. It's not good. It's very problematic. It is very late 90s girl boss energy, deeply homophobic, not a good show. But it is very enjoyable to watch if you are making fun of it.
Yeah.
I feel there are some people in my life that I know who would, earnestly enjoy Sex in the City, but
it's no Black Sails. That's,
yeah, it's not
critically amazing.
Yeah. It's
not Haikyuu that I'm, filled with joy and delight every time I watch it.
Every time I watch it, it's perfect and brings me out of a deep depression.
It's the television equivalent of, a cheese quesadilla. That's just what I eat when there's
nothing else.
And, sometimes it goes down real smooth, but most of the time it's just a cheese quesadilla.
Yeah. So, would me and my college group of friends gone to see Sex and the City if it came out in theaters? An ominous noise.
Table knocking something over.
Yes, we would have. But I'm also the type of person who saw all 50 Shades of Grey movies in theaters.
Well,
but as a joke?
Yeah, I'm saying earnestly.
Yeah.
Boy, you're the type of person who's I'm a Carrie or whatever, which, if you're saying you're a Carrie, then you're a monster.
I know. There's that's the thing is you're this is which Sex and the City character I am. And
I'm Steve? I don't fucking know. Down to earth everyman.
That is a very funny answer.
I didn't actually think about it. I don't know who I would.
But yeah, imagine being like, I am a Carrie. Be like, you're a what?
You're a full-blown terrorist then.
Yeah, you are a full-blown narcissist.
Shopping addict.
You've got no financial management. You are mean to your friends. You are
Irresponsible.
terrible in relationships. You are deeply irresponsible.
You're not even that good at your job.
Yeah.
The writing's bad.
Her writing is terrible. I couldn't help but wonder, is the war between single marrieds and singles like the war in Northern Ireland? What?
That was the thing she said in the first season, and that was when I was like, I'm committed to this entire franchise.
Yeah.
Seeing it through, which was why we watched both movies. I forced Sally to...
Oh, no, I'll watch them. I mean, I'm always down to watch anything Sex and the City related. It is like, hits the serotonin receptors in my brain.
Sure.
Or whatever, but it is so dumb. This is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Sally Goodger.
I'm Emily. Okay, here's the bad news, everyone. Perrin's back.
Here's the extra bad news. I didn't read the chapters.
Oh.
It's because I thought we were going to record yesterday and I didn't have the strength, and then today I ran out of time.
That's fine.
Did read the Wikipedia summaries
I
on which
knew that actually because you sent me a screenshot of the Wikipedia.
the Book of Mormon was being advertised to me on the Wheel of Time Wikipedia page.
What was that called? Evidence Central?
Yeah. I was like, what is this?
I was like, is it specifically for evidence of the Book of Mormon, or is it like just a place where you can go to get evidence of a variety of things?
I don't know.
And just Book of Mormon was the one advertised because your IP address is in Utah.
While I am willing to Google things on Pornhub, I am not willing to Google things about the Book of Mormon.
No, that makes total sense to me.
So there's that.
What was I saying? The bad news is Perrin's back.
There he is.
There he is, baby.
That motherfucker.
That motherfucker. Weirdly, we started this chapter not in just like some red shirt's point of view. Some dude named Vilnar. Vilnar
the science guy.
The science guard?
The science guard?
No, just Vilnar the science guard.
I said guy.
I know.
I don't know what you're saying.
It just Nye and Guy rhyme.
Vilnar the science gar.
See?
Vilnar.
No, you can't get out of here.
Stupid. This podcast is dumb. Why do you guys listen to it?
Vilnar is just a random Saldean, like, basically a cop, because Rand is policing Camelin with a variety of ailmen and Saldean soldiers, because I guess Camelin's own infrastructure didn't have it, or something.
Yeah, no cops in fantasy England.
I mean, there aren't really any cops generally. I think we've talked about that before. The state of policing and such in this fantasy world is very odd. Oddly not really existent, especially considering that Robert Jordan was a Southerner and, police are sort of a big part of that culture. But whatever. So Vilnar is like minding his own beeswax, thinking about how cool Aes Sedai are and how he wants to see one, which is like, okay, I guess this is the type of dude who becomes a warder. Mm-hmm. But they're like patrolling outside the city or something, or in the, I guess Camelin has kind of the outer city. I can't remember really. And then there's the part that is behind walls. And they're at the wall. And they find this huge contingent of, I mean, we know that they're the Two Rivers folk. And Vilnar's like, what the fuck? And then we switch over to Perrin's point of view.
Yeah, it's like, what was the point
And
of
yeah,
that,
and it's
Robert?
like, why? There are lots of point of views in these two chapters. It's very confusing. But Perrin's like, hi, I'm here. I'm Perrin. I'm here to see Rand. And Vilnar's like, well, you're not allowed to bring, a whole army into Camelin. And Perrin's like, fair enough. Disperse, my boys.
Be gone.
He's like, didn't we see a field like 3 miles back? And Daniel, or whoever, Daniel, is like, yeah, my lord. My lord. I'll take him. And Perrin's like, great. Aram, go with them so you're not so horny for killing. Which he totally is.
Yeah, Aram's like, I can't wait to blood my sword.
Yeah, like, the guards ride up, and Aram's like, we don't even need the bowmen. They're only 10. You and I could cut through them ourselves. And Perrin's like, I mean, first of all, I know in a fantasy text where everyone has plot armor, that's probably true. Aram and Perrin could take care of it. In real life, you couldn't.
And I mean, like, first of all, why would you want to cause unnecessary violence, period? But also, like, if you could bring, equal to or more than your enemy, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, just make it a lot easier. Not everything has to be a Dungeons and Dragons fight, Aram.
It does.
Aram's, like, living in this world where he has to gain XP by killing as many people as possible in order to reach level 20 very quickly.
Gotta reach level 20 and get better stats to do more killing.
I don't know. Yeah, he's transitioned in the last book and a half of his absence to being incredibly bloodthirsty, which is an odd move.
Yeah, and Perrin's like, that's kind of weird. And it's like, that's your fault, Perrin.
And it's like, I mean, he needs to go to therapy, but you're just like, it's cool.
I will definitely enable these unhealthy, violent coping mechanisms.
Yeah, he's just like, I'll just ignore it. It'll go away eventually.
All boys go through this phase. It's their bloodthirsty phase.
He's just at that age. Perrin, 3 years younger than Aram.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, Perrin basically reduces it down to him and Fail, but then Gaul, Bane, and Chiad also just sort of leave because they're like, oh, Ael are in the city, we gotta go.
Gotta hang out with some normal people.
Yeah, we gotta go see our pals and whatnot. And then, so they're escorted into the city. Perrin is getting progressively more nervous because he's aware that they'd started hearing as they got nearer to Camelin that the Saldeans were in town. So he's like, okay, that means I gotta have the shovel talk with Davram Bashir, he assumes. Fail's like, my dad's not the one you have to worry about, it's my mom. And Perrin's like, okay.
I mean, her mom is very frightening.
And Perrin's just like, I don't get it, I'm more worried about Davram Bashir, local Chad.
Local Chad.
But they're escorted by the Ael through the palace till they finally come to a door, which, the Ael disappear into to go alert Rand, and then he, flings the door open and is like, Perrin, Fail!
Feels like,
it's so good to see you!
Okay.
He, hugs Perrin, and kisses Fail, apparently. Just as kissing Fail lightly. I don't, it's hard to... I mean, I assume because Perrin doesn't comment on it that's not that weird. But, we've had so few interactions between normal adults in this series.
Yeah.
Is this, a Two Rivers custom or
Yeah.
something?
Is it the, kiss each other on both cheeks sort of thing?
Yeah,
What
I
are
just
we...
want
Is it a gentle forehead kiss? What are we dealing with?
Is he kissing her full on the
Yeah,
mouth?
is he just,
Smooch.
smooching her?
Or is he kissing her on the hand?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What does it mean, Robert
Robert,
Jordan?
elaborate on the kissing rituals. He's like, congrats on your wedding. And Perrin's like, what? How do you know about our wedding? And Rand's like, oh, well, there's a whole bunch of Two Rivers girls here. And Perrin's like, oh, that's weird. And Rand's like, yeah, they're calling you Lord Perrin of the Two Rivers. Tell me all about it. And Perrin's like, it's bad. It's terrible. Meanwhile, there's this whole other scene going on where Fail walks into the room and sees Min, and I would assume the natural assumption is that she'd be like, this is one of, I mean, not one of, she doesn't really know Rand's romantic history. But you enter a room, you see your husband's friend, and he's in a room alone with a woman. Your natural assumption, you'd think, would be they're together.
Yeah.
Not Fail. She thinks, this woman is definitely going to fuck my husband.
Fail is pathological about this.
Because Min and Perrin, greet each other.
Yeah, because they're friends.
Yeah, they had a totally normal, friendly relationship back in the winter between books 2 and 3 when everything and nothing happened.
Yeah, and feels like this dirty skank is making eyes at my husband.
How dare she? Finally, it, sinks into her that Min has zero interest in Perrin and is clearly in love with Rand. And she's like, oh, well, that's fine then.
Yeah.
And Perrin's like, I have no idea what's going on in the corner of this room. And I'm like, that's because your wife fully has some mental illnesses that need to be addressed.
Yeah, it's just like her jealousy is off the charts.
Pathological, as you
Yeah, and it's just like troubling.
But Fail's like, Min and I are gonna go talk. And Perrin's like, okay, whatever. I guess Rand and I will go talk. And Fail, like, straightening his coat is like, now remember, he can do magic and can kill us all. And he's also super powerful, so don't do anything stupid or make any mistakes. And just remember, he can kill you. And Perrin's like, great, thank you.
Thanks for the reminder.
This has been awesome.
This is also my childhood best friend, so maybe don't be so mean.
You know, could I have, like, a minute
Yeah.
to reestablish our relationship? Rand's like, where's Loyal? And Perrin's like, oh, he had to go to the steading, but he'll probably be here in, like, 2 hours because he walks so fast.
Yeah, and Rand's like, well,
Rand's like, well,
I did in fact send his mother to find
he doesn't
him.
even mention that.
Oh,
He's so weird and dumb.
It's like,
Like, you'd think he'd be like, oh, well, I guess his family missed you guys?
yeah.
And Perrin would be like, what? What family? And then
Loyal
Rand would be like, oh, this is a disaster. No, that conversation does not happen.
It's not like he could be like, I'll just pop over to the Two Rivers and find Loyal's mean mom.
No, yeah, they're definitely halfway out of the Two Rivers by now. Because they were like, where's Loyal? And everyone was like, he left. And they were like, what the fuck?
This fucking comedy of errors up in
I
here.
know, he's blessed them. It takes them like 3 more books to find him.
Evade.
Evade.
Loyal, king of evasion.
Invasion. He's got, Loyal's got rogue stats somehow. So Fail and Min leave, then Perrin and Min just are more or less chatting about, first they start, Perrin's like, where's Matt? Rand's like, well, he's supposed to be bringing Elaine here to be crowned. I'm hoping they'll get here in a couple months. Then he's like, would you go to Tyr for me? And Perrin's like, no. I mean, first of all, literally not right now, because I've just been riding a horse for like 2 months. And Rand's like, well, I could just travel you there, so you wouldn't even have to travel, and you would literally just be in a tent over there. And Perrin's like, I still don't want to do that. It's just like the contrasting between Perrin and Matt. Perrin able to say no, partly because he hasn't been exposed to Rand for the last 2 books.
Yeah.
And Matt just like, well, I have to do whatever he tells me to do.
Yeah, Rand also treats Perrin with a lot more, like, respect and dignity than he treats Matt. Like, for some reason, there's more of a, like, Perrin and I are equals. Like, not quite, but, like, more so than Matt.
Well, you see that a little bit in even the first 2 books when
Yeah.
they're all 3 of them together. Rand and Perrin are kind of like, we're the 2 normal, rational farm boys, whatnot, and Matt's just this little weirdo who kind of hangs around us and is always getting up to his own mischief and pulling us into things. So Matt's kind of like weirdly othered from them.
Yeah.
In a way that I think is sort of normal in friendships to have everyone's just different. And of course, it's normal that Rand and Perrin would have a different relationship than Rand and Matt would, or Perrin and Matt.
For sure.
But that is, like, so much exacerbated by Rand's new position, Rand's new power, everything that's happening with them, where, yeah, Perrin is still getting treated with a modicum of respect, and Matt is still getting treated like he's the village idiot. Mm-hmm. So, woof, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Although Rand does still, like, keep bringing it up, and he's going to get progressively more pushy about getting Perrin to do things.
Yeah, like, eventually that, I think, falls apart.
Yeah,
and eventually their relationship is, like, transactional.
Yes. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
It's,
Like all of Rand's relationships, basically.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
But it's like, because it's relationships between 2 men, it's not dissected to the level that Robert Jordan dissects relationships between men and women. Mm-hmm. So we're getting very few, like, explanations or explorations of how anyone really feels about what's going on here.
Yeah.
Like, Matt isn't staying up at night thinking, well, Rand sure has become a bully, to me specifically.
Rand is a real asshole to me.
Rand's basically shoving me into lockers.
Yeah.
on a daily
Throwing
basis.
slushies on me like in Glee.
Yeah. Ugh. And just the fact that Rand is like, I need you to go to Tyr, or Ilion, or whatever. And it's like, Mal was almost there.
I know.
Why have these things happened?
Randy, you are
Fully
making me
psycho. I know.
nuts. What's happening?
And they talk about the Aes Sedai. Perrin finds out that Moiraine is dead. Sad, I guess. He mostly doesn't care. He finds out, Rand tells him, oh, it's not just a story that the White Tower has split. There really are two factions, and I'm more or less playing both of them because it's to my advantage that the White Tower is split. If they were unified, then I would, be in Aes Sedai strings now or whatever. And Perrin's like, okay, well, that's a grim way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And Rand's like, well, history speaks for itself. But he's like, no, it's cool. He also says there's a third side ready to kneel to me, which I guess is supposed to be like Alviarin's weird
I guess.
letter. I have no clue why he thinks that there's a third group of Aes Sedai. I guess just because he thinks within the White Tower proper there are two factions, which is true, but one of them is the Black Aja. So,
Yeah, one of
them
wants to kill you more.
they all want to kill you.
That's fair.
In a
One
way.
of them definitely wants to kill you the most.
But then they just have like a nice chat about home. It's very wholesome. It's too bad that's only a paragraph. Perrin's like, why don't you go visit the army? I brought a ton of people with me that you know. And Rand's like, no, I gotta protect them. I can't protect you and Matt, but I can protect them. And I'm like, why do you have to be so weird?
What if you just invested some time in your friendships in order to keep them? I don't know, just thought.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily time, just effort when you do see them. Be like, how are you doing?
Rand's like, I had one normal conversation with Perrin for the first time in 2 years, so that gives me another 2 years to just abuse our relationship mercilessly. We good? Perrin's like, no.
It's like, absolutely the fuck not.
Squeeze me?
What are you talking about?
The next chapter has a great many points of view, but first Perrin leaves Rand after promising to think about going to Tyr. Leaves and immediately sees Davram Bashir down the hall, who's like, hello, we gotta chat. He says, we will talk. And
Crooks a finger.
yeah. Perrin's like, ew.
This man
is so small, but so terrifying.
so scary.
And they get into a room and have a weird chat. I don't like to summarize everything that happens with Perrin and Fael and their parents because it's more or less already been covered by us. The main thing is that Bashir, after sort of disentangling the difference in, he still refers to Fael as Zareen, and Perrin's like, oh no, she's Fael now because she was a hunter of the Horn. And Bashir's like, sweet.
It's like, cool.
Good for her.
That is very cool of my daughter.
I love that for her. And Fael is way cooler than Zareen anyway. And you're like, okay.
You are a lunatic.
Yeah, Fael starts to make more sense
Yeah.
in this context.
This is my dad, and then this is my mom.
They're both fully insane. Anyway, Bashir's just like, wants to know that Perrin won't mistreat his daughter, that he won't be abusive or overly forceful with her. He's like, you have to be gentle with women. And Perrin's like, no, I'm not gonna hurt Fael. Like, that's my wife.
Yeah.
Bashir's like, I mean, good, because if we think that you're mistreating her or anything's, or if my wife doesn't approve, then we're going to take Fael away because she's technically not old enough to be legally married.
Yeah, which is like, what?
I mean, at least according to Saldaea.
Yeah.
It's different in the Two Rivers, where women are just of marrying age when the women's circle decides they are, I guess. But they're like, technically we could have your marriage nullified or whatever, and we can just take kidnap Fail and take her back. And Perrin's like, crushes the wine cup in his hand or whatever, and is like, never, you can never take Fail away from me. And Bashir, instead of calling the police...
Hello, Vilnar, the science car?
Is like, stupid. He's like, I don't know. I think you'll really be able to maintain our genetic... What's my dad say about...
You won't dilute the bloodstream or the bloodline?
Bashir's like, our gene pool has been really
The gene
diluted over
pool.
the last few generations. I think you'll add some good stock to it. And Perrin's like,
Disgusting.
excuse me. Whatever.
Can you spell the word cinnamon?
Oh yeah. No, it's if you can't pronounce the word
sorry.
cinnamon.
You don't have to know how to spell, but you do have to pronounce the word cinnamon.
Crazy. Then they go to visit Dira, Fail's mom, who's with Fail, and as they approach, Perrin hears the sounds of 2 slaps and is like, Jesus, fuck. But they open the door, and it is apparent that Fail and her mother have slapped each other. They both have marks on their face, so Perrin is like, I have no idea what this relationship is. Terrible.
This is why you meet the in-laws before marrying someone.
Obviously. Oh my fucking god. But he's like, hi, I'm Perrin. I just, like, really love your daughter, and I want to take her to the prom and whatever. And Dira's like, can you be forceful with can you dominate my daughter? Women need to be dominated. Or we'll hate our husbands because they're not showing enough strength. Which, not to keep bringing up my Mormon upbringing, but legit, that was, like, a thing.
Ew.
Not, like, physical domination, but, like, the idea that men are supposed to be the natural leaders in the household.
Disgusting.
Very patriarchal thing. So if, like, a man wasn't stepping up to fulfill his leadership role, then many women felt, you know, like they were having to do all the work in the household. Which I guess, you know, the logic makes sense. They're like, not only am I raising the children, cleaning the house, doing all of this labor for free, but I'm also in charge of making decisions.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's a lot there.
what I'm saying is that this whole thing with Saldean gender dynamics is very rooted in patriarchy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
The idea that men and women have specific roles. I think the roles of men and women in Saldea are a little bit different than they are in evangelical white households, patriarchal households, but they're nevertheless that men should be the leader, men should be in charge, men should be able to dominate their wives in some sort of way, whereas women have their own specific work.
Yeah, like even, I think it, at least according to Wikipedia in this section, feels like it's the woman's responsibility to manage spying or something like that.
Later she's like, you need to keep an eye on Rand, and Perrin's like, I'm not gonna spy on him, and she's like, no, that's my job. And it's like,
So it definitely gets into a little bit of the like, there's women's work, and even though that's slightly different than what women's work would be considered in like the Two Rivers maybe, where like you're taking care of, I don't know, household, whatever.
yeah, but like Dira clearly has like military responsibilities, things like that, but she is ultimately still like, my husband should be able to take me by the scruff of my neck or whatever and show me who's boss.
Yeah.
And I, you know, there's like a sexual undertone to that.
Yeah.
That men should be the domineering force in bed.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And Perrin's all like, how does that even work with you guys? She's so tall.
Bashir's like, don't underestimate me.
Bashir's like, I love my tall wife.
Perrin's like, yes, remember that nullification you talked about? I would like that.
Follow through, please.
Yeah, please take your daughter back.
So Perrin's like, these people are fully psychotic, but whatever.
Yeah.
No one has told him he can't marry Fail, or can't be married to Fail, so I guess.
That's all he wants.
Yeah, then later he and Fail get to go to their room and chat. It's a whole scene where Perrin is undoing the little buttons on her dress, and he keeps like, there's actually a very cute part where he's like, I always hate doing this because I'm worried I'll break the buttons.
Aww.
And she like twists around to say something to him, and he like a minute later like puts the little button in his pocket. It's like, maybe she won't notice.
Sometimes Perrin is so charming.
I know, right? It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, that's very cute.
Yeah, just this big boy
Who's just like,
can't handle tiny buttons.
it's like, dang it.
His hands are too big, and
The
he's
buttons
just,
keep breaking.
you know, this gentle giant sort of archetype that we have with Perrin.
Who's excited to have sex with his wife,
Yeah.
as they do enthusiastically at the end of this point of view. But it's like, oh man, you guys, the rest of it is so fucked.
Like, compare this very sweet scene where he's like, I'm too strong, my hands are too big, I can't unbutton your dress, with crushing a literal wine cup while talking to her dad.
A fucking goblet.
Yeah, how do you crush a goblet?
Like, Perrin left, and then Bashir, you know, put on his latex gloves and then put that in a little evidence bag and was like, when my daughter's murdered, this will be evidence.
Beep, 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 beep.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, how is Bashir not, like, divorced? You are officially divorced by the power vested in me and my big army.
I mean, I know we're giving Bashir a lot of credit. He is very clearly deeply entrenched in the Saldean patriarchal system. But I just want to be like, oh man, someone put a stop to this.
Yeah, like, Bashir is very much complicit in the bullshit that happens in these chapters.
Yeah, he's a main character, as it were.
Yeah, but it's like, I don't know, if I had a daughter and her husband came in and crushed a cup in front of me when I mentioned maybe they shouldn't be married anymore.
It's just very like this, like, meet the parents sort of comedy hour that Robert Jordan is going for, because none of his other main romantic relationships have families in law to deal with.
Yeah.
You know? Like, Morgause is still kicking, but neither Edwene nor Rand really has to deal with her. Because she's also an absentee parent assumed dead for most of the series. Matt certainly doesn't have to deal with anything with Tuon. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
Perrin's the only one who has a wife whose parents are alive and well.
Yeah, and also, like, important, you know,
Yeah, moderately
central
important to the
figures.
plot.
Yeah, I mean, like, Morgause, obviously, but like you said, she's an absentee parent, but it's not like...
It's not like, yeah, Min technically has family, we know, but
it's not like
they're
she's
not
rolling in
relevant.
with her aunts.
And none of Rand's girlfriends really have to talk to Tam. Or whatever.
I mean, they got the long end of the stick, right? Tam is generally a very lovely guy.
No, Tam would be like, oh, hello, my husband's three
Three
girlfriends.
what?
My husband's three... My son's three girlfriends. Whatever.
And he's like, these are my daughters-in-law.
As long as you're all happy with the situation, I don't care.
Whatever.
Oh, Tam, so nice.
Yeah.
It's not like Tuon has to deal with Abel Cathan.
He's also very
I know,
nice.
he'd be like, oh, you're the Empress? Nice to
He's
meet
like,
you.
Cool, I guess. Would you like a horse?
Do you want a horse? I'm good at horses. And she'd be like, fuck yeah, she loves horses.
Good for her. See, they'd probably have a lovely relationship. Though he'd be like, Matt, this does seem a little abusive.
And Matt's like, wee!
like-
I'm Robert Jordan's weird creation that has makes no sense.
No sense of my own agency.
Books especially. Okay.
Oh, Tibble, big yawn.
I can't remember what Parrot and Fail talk about except the spying thing. And he's basically like, okay, that was weird with your parents. And she's just like, meh.
That's Tuesday, baby.
Yeah. Say la vie.
You and your mom slap each other every Tuesday?
Yes.
He's like, yeah.
Slap Tuesday.
Stupid.
We also flip over to Rand, who's just chilling when Min comes back from her conversation with, well, Rand's like, oh, you were talking to Fail for that long? And she's like, no, we talked for like 30 seconds wherein Fail threatened my life if I wanted to make any moves on Perrin. Or whatever, which I'm clearly not interested in. She's like, that woman is crazy. And Rand's like, I mean, I know. Perrin clearly doesn't, though.
Like, I know, I've met her. She's nuts.
Yeah, we've all met her. We all think Fail's crazy. But, you know, one of your guy friends always ends up with a crazy wife. What are you gonna do?
Classic crazy wife trope.
But, Perrin... Fuck, there's so many fucking character names. She also just comes right in and sits on Rand's lap. And he's just like, this is just happening now. Can't stop it unless I do what she wants or, you know, beg her to. Whatever. And I'm like, either of those is acceptable if you're uncomfortable with the situation. Yeah. She shouldn't be able to sexually harass you. But you are comfortable with the situation. but the gray nature of those lines is troubling.
Ugh.
She's like, well, I saw some shit while you guys were together, and he's like, oh, great, what's up? She's like, well, your little firefly aura thing is always stronger when you're with one of the boys. She says, I saw that Perrin is going to have to be there for you twice, or something bad will happen.
Only twice.
Yeah, she's like, 2 times Perrin will need to be there. And he's like, okay. And she's like, and I don't even know if he's there, if the bad thing will be averted. I just know he needs to be there, or it'll be even worse. Now, I think the first, time is at the end of this book, when Perrin has to sort of rescue Rand from Dumai's wells. The second time, I guess, is supposed to be in A Memory of Light, when Perrin kind of goes to protect Rand when Rand is fighting the Dark One or whatever via Teleron Riyadh, because there are people trying to get at Rand through Teleron Riyadh or something. It's actually very bad. I mean, just like that narrative part of A Memory of Light. I don't like Perrin's plot in that book. It's mostly nonsensical, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I really don't like Min's viewings. The way that they're set in stone like that sometimes. I think it didn't give Robert Jordan enough flexibility to make later decisions about the direction he wanted to take the books. Mm-hmm. Because basically what you're saying is, okay, now I have to do something where Perrin saves Rand's life, or I'm not fulfilling that promise. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, let us not forget that Robert Jordan neglected many of the promises that he foreshadowed elsewhere. But this one was kind of made such a big deal out of that he needed to come back to it. And it would have been, I don't know, more interest. He would have had more options. Or I guess even Brandon Sanderson would have had more options if it wasn't the case. Anyway, Min's really upset by the whole thing, and Rand's just like, it's okay. Cry it out, or whatever. She's like, okay, and then leaves. Yada yada. Mm-hmm. And then there's a random Aes Sedai point of view, as she's like trying to make contact with one of her spies. And then she's going through some alleys, and she gets stabbed by a guy who's dressed like an Aelman. But he is clearly not an Aelman, given that he has dark eyes. And when she wakes up and remembers what happened, he, says something about, get the witches out of Tar Valon, or whatnot. Now, if this were a normal book in a normal series, because this incident, when Demira, that's her name, wakes up, she's like to the other Aes Sedai, we definitely have to change, tactics of how we approach Rand, because he's the only one who could have told the Ale to do that. Even though to us, the viewers, it was clearly not an Aelman. She's like, he commands the Ale, so he's clearly trying to get rid of us, so we have to be way more forceful with him and disregard his rules that make him feel safe. And just do all sorts of shenanigans and whatnot, which will ultimately lead to Rand leaving the city, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. So the fact that this woman got stabbed by a random guy masquerading as Ale is very important to the plot. So you'd think the identity of who stabbed her would be pretty important. And might be a mystery that was solved, or a loose end that was tied up at some point. You'll never guess where I found the identity of her attacker. In the footnotes on Wikipedia.
Oh no.
And they were like, it's in the Wheel of Time Companion. And I'm like, bruh.
I don't keep that with me while I read.
I also would forget about it. I forget about it a few pages. By the time this book is over.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's so frustrating. Apparently it's supposed to be one of the white cloaks that Padan Fane corrupted. You know how there were also some White Cloaks who tried to assassinate Rand earlier in this book?
I thought they all got killed.
I guess there's just some guys running around.
I mean, that makes, like, sense, because he said, you know, the witches in Tarvalon, but, like, it only, like, stupid.
Like, before I looked on Wikipedia, I was like, is it supposed to be one of the guys from the Black Tower? Like, is it supposed... That was the only thing that made sense to me. But even that didn't make sense to me, because I couldn't see any advantage Mazrim Tem would have out of it.
Yeah.
But whenever a Padan Fane-related person attacks someone, it's basically Robert Jordan's way of saying, there's actually no good reason for this violence to happen, but I need it to happen to move the plot along.
So we'll bring in
Padan Fane, who just sort of attacks people without any rational reason, moving the plot along. Which, I mean, first of all, is bad writing. If you just need sort of random events that are disconnected from the rest of the plot to happen in order to make things happen, then that's bad. But it is especially bad writing that this was never brought up again.
Yeah.
Solved in any way. It just sort of went away.
Yeah. Like,
it boggles the mind.
It's very funny in a tragic and confusing structural sort of way that we spent, like, that much time and attention on Perrin's ridiculous meeting the in-laws sequence, which could have just been, you know, either non-existent or a very short conversation.
Yeah.
Versus an integral plot point is given to a completely random character that we either haven't met or have met and completely forgotten. And it's just, like, buried in the rest of everything that's going on. It's like, that makes the plot quite inscrutable, Robert.
Yeah. It's so difficult to follow. Like, when you're at all removed from Lord of Chaos, it's so difficult to remember what happens.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily true of the first, I'd say, 3 books in the series, where generally things that happen, you know, follow chronologically from one to another. Maybe less so in Eye of the World, because at the end of the Eye of the World, all of that is so weird and inscrutable.
Yeah.
But, like, things just start falling apart in book 4 because there are now so many characters in so many different settings holding so many different subplots together that, like, we are already going to have a hard time keeping track of them all. But if you're leveraging the entire, like, plot of your book on this one little event that happens, and then how are we supposed to piece that together, you know?
Yeah. Like, it's... Yeah. Robert, this is why no one has any idea what's ever going on.
Yeah, this is why I'm always confused.
Oh, buddy, did you see another bug?
I guess that's all that happened.
That's all she wrote.
Demira's warder is named Steven. But it's spelled Stevan, so it's fantasy.
Steven.
Yeah, I guess it could be pronounced Stevan.
Stevan.
But I just like that there's a guy named Steven running around.
This is, Alwan Mandragoran or whatever, and then this is Steven.
And Vilnar, the science car.
Vilnar, the science car. Vilnar.
Alright.
The science car.
That's enough out of us.
That's too much out of us.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks to Glenna Mackenzie for our theme song. Thanks to our patrons on Patreon. To our followers on social media, etc., etc. All the usual suspects. Do you have any thoughts or announcements?
No.
Cool. Do you have a sign off?
No.
Okay, let's do Egg, Elaine, Nynaeve, and Avienda. Sex and the City characters.
Okay.
Obviously Elaine's Carrie. That one's easy.
Easy.
I guess Charlotte would be Egg?
Oh, I was gonna say Nynaeve.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just feel like, or at least Nynaeve pretends to be conservative, or, you know, puts on a conservative front. It's like Charlotte also kind of does.
I can't figure out who's Samantha. None of them are slutty enough.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Avienda comes the closest with the ale relationship to bodies.
Yeah, okay.
So that would mean Egg was Miranda.
All right, I'm willing to live with that.
Unfortunately, that puts Gawain in the role of Steve, which I'm not comfortable with.
I don't believe in that. Okay, that was stupid, everyone. I hope you all have a good week.
Bye!